7 habits of quietly wealthy people. We often think of wealth as something loud. Flashy cars, lavish vacations, designer clothes. But real wealth, the kind that lasts, the kind that grows in peace and not in noise, often whispers. Today I want to talk about the quietly wealthy. The ones who don't always make headlines, but live lives of deep abundance, not just in money, but in time, health, purpose, and peace. Here are 7 habits they live by. 1, they live below their means, even when they don't have to. They don't buy to impress, they buy to sustain. While others upgrade, they maintain, because they know it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And quiet wealth is built on that sacred discipline. 2, they invest consistently, not emotionally. Quietly wealthy people treat investing like brushing their teeth. It's routine. They don't chase trends. They don't panic with headlines. They plant seeds and let time do its work. Compounding, my friends, is their silent partner. 3, they value time more than money because they understand money can be made again. Time, that's the real currency. They outsource what drains them and guard what matters. Time with family, time for health, time to think. That's real wealth. 4, they learn relentlessly, quietly. They read, they listen, they ask questions more than they give answers. And they understand that every book, every conversation, every failure is tuitioned toward their next level. 5, they build multiple streams, not just one. A job may be a ladder, but they build bridges. Whether it's real estate, investments, a side business, they don't put all their eggs in one paycheck. Quiet wealth flows from many directions. 6, they avoid lifestyle inflation. When the money grows, their ego doesn't. Their house might not change, but their balance sheet does. They understand it's not about appearing rich, it's about being free. 7, they give, but quietly. They don't give for applause, they give for alignment. Their wealth doesn't end with them, it flows through them, whether it's time, money, or wisdom. They share what they've been blessed with, quietly but impactfully. So today, I want you to remember this. You don't have to shout to be successful. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. The richest lives are often lived in silence by those who chose consistency over chaos, purpose over performance, and freedom over fame. There's something deeply empowering about knowing that you could have it all, but choosing only what truly matters. Quietly wealthy people have mastered that choice. They live below their means, not because they have to, but because they choose to. They've learned a powerful truth. Real wealth is not in how much you spend, but in how much peace you keep. It's tempting, isn't it? The pull to upgrade every time life gives you a little extra. A promotion comes in and suddenly the car feels too old. A bonus lands and now the old phone looks outdated. The world whispers constantly, go bigger, go flashier, show them how far you've come. Bubbly wealthy people don't listen to that voice. They listen to something deeper. They know that showing off isn't the same as showing up for their future, for their family, for their freedom. They don't need the world to clap for their purchases. Their validation comes from within, from knowing they're building something solid, something lasting. And you might not notice them at first. They're not the ones throwing money around at every dinner table or pulling up in cars with names you can't pronounce. They're the ones quietly sipping coffee debt-free. They're the ones whose house may not be the biggest, but it's fully paid for. They walk through life with a quiet confidence, not because of what they wear, but because of what they don't owe. They live like this because they understand the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is loud. Wealth is quiet. Rich is temporary. Wealth is sustainable. Living below your means isn't about lack. It's about choice. It's about prioritizing freedom over appearances. It's saying, I'd rather have options than obligations. I'd rather sleep peacefully than spend recklessly. And it's not always easy, especially in a world where success is often measured by how much you show, where your worth is mistaken for what you wear, what you drive, where you vacation. But quietly wealthy people have learned to opt out of that race because they know the finish line isn't applause, it's security, it's peace, it's legacy. You see, they don't just look at money as a way to buy things. They see it as a tool to build freedom, freedom from debt, freedom from stress, freedom from having to say yes when your soul is screaming no. They understand that every dollar saved is a seed. And when you live below your means, you're planting those seeds slowly, intentionally, until one day you wake up in a garden of choices. Their lives may look simple on the outside, but underneath is a deep foundation built on intention, not impulse. They don't upgrade their lifestyle every time their income increases. They upgrade their discipline. They don't need the newest. They choose the smartest. And often they find joy in the enough. There's dignity in restraint. There's power in simplicity. And while others are chasing the next best thing, they're quietly building a life that doesn't require escape. They teach us something profound, that wealth is not about having more, it's about needing less. It's about knowing how to say, I'm good. I don't need that to feel full. It's about knowing that you don't have to prove anything to anyone to live richly. Because in the end, what's more powerful than living a life where you're not controlled by your bills, your image, or your impulses? What's more powerful than waking up every morning knowing your future is funded, your lifestyle is manageable, and your peace is intact? That's the wealth they're building. Not loud, but lasting. Not showy, but strong. And in a world that wants everything bigger, louder, faster, quietly wealthy people remind us that less isn't loss. Sometimes less is the wisest, strongest, richest choice you'll ever make. There's something beautiful, almost sacred, about the quiet patience of someone who invests not out of fear, not out of greed, but out of faith. Faith in the future, faith in time, faith in discipline. Quietly wealthy people have learned to treat investing as a habit, not a reaction, not something to panic about when the market dips, not something to chase when headlines scream, buy now or miss out. They don't fall for the hype. They don't join the stampede. Because they've learned a deeper truth. Real wealth isn't built in moments. It's built in rhythm. And for them, that rhythm is calm, steady, intentional. They know that wealth built slowly lasts longer. It rests on firmer ground. There's no rush, no drama, no need for perfect timing. They invest like they brush their teeth, routinely, quietly, without needing to announce it. No fireworks, just consistency. A habit stitched into the fabric of their life. Because they understand something the world often forgets. Time is the most powerful partner in wealth creation. Not timing, time. Not how fast you move, but how long you stay committed. They don't try to predict the market, they respect it. They don't try to outsmart it, they work with it. While others obsess over the next big thing, crypto, stocks, property, gold, they simply keep planting seeds. Month after month, year after year, rain or shine. And when the storms come, and they always do, they don't run, they don't pull out, they don't scream, it's over. They sit still, they breathe, they remember why they started. And most importantly, they keep going because they know that wealth built on emotion is fragile, but wealth built on habit, that's different. That's solid. That's powerful. They don't confuse movement with progress. They don't trade constantly. They don't gamble. They don't chase the highs. They trust the process. And in trusting the process, they build something that's not just financially sound, but emotionally calm. Their portfolios aren't filled with noise. They're filled with intention. Index funds, long-term investments, dividend stocks, real estate that appreciates over time. They don't need to brag about tenfold returns. They're content with slow, steady growth that aligns with their goals, their values, and their peace of mind. They also understand the power of automation. They don't wait until they feel inspired to invest. They make it automatic. A portion of every paycheck, every payment, every profit quietly redirected toward the future. Like brushing your teeth, like filling your gas tank, like saying thank you after a meal. It's just part of the rhythm of their life. And it doesn't matter how much they start with. It matters that they start, that they stay in the game, that they build momentum, not with big leaps, but with small steps, repeated again and again. Because real investors don't obsess over getting rich fast. They're focused on staying wealthy forever. And that requires patience. That requires humility. That requires knowing that you don't have to hit a home run to build a legacy. You just have to show up, swing consistently, and keep your eye on the long game. And when everyone else is getting shaken by the latest crash, the latest correction, the latest end of the market prophecy, the quietly wealthy don't flinch. They've seen this before. They know the market moves in seasons. And just like winter gives way to spring, the downturns give way to recovery. So they hold steady. They trust their plan. They trust the math. They trust themselves. Because they're not investing for headlines. They're investing for freedom. Freedom to retire early. Freedom to take care of their parents. Freedom to say yes to a dream or no to a job that no longer serves them. Freedom to live life on their own terms, not dictated by a paycheck or a panic. That's what investing consistently gives you, not just wealth, but power. Not the loud kind, not the kind that flexes, the kind that whispers to you when you're lying in bed at night. You're going to be okay. You planned for this. And that is the peace the quietly wealthy carry with them. They don't need to post screenshots of their trades. They don't need to predict what's next. They just need to stay committed, stay calm, and keep going. They treat investing not as a game, not as a gamble, but as a gift. A gift they give to their future selves, quietly, consistently, and with unwavering faith that the seeds they plant today will bloom in time. And they always do. Because that's how real wealth is grown, not in noise, but in discipline. Not in hype, but in habit. There comes a moment in life, if you're lucky, when you realize that time is not just something you spend, it's something you invest. And unlike money, once it's gone, you don't get it back. Quietly wealthy people know this truth deep in their bones. They've made peace with it. They don't just value time, they honor it. They don't see it as a background detail. They see it as the centerpiece of their lives. And that's what separates them. Not just their bank balance, not their assets, but how they treat their hours, how they treat their mornings, how they protect their evenings. Because to them, time isn't something they fit around their work. It's something they design their work to protect. They understand that money is infinite, but time is not. You can lose money and make it back. You can miss a deal and land another. But you cannot rewind time. You cannot relive a moment. You cannot get back the years you spent chasing approval, chasing things, chasing status. And so they choose differently. They say no, not to be rude, but to protect what matters. They say no to meetings that drain them, no to clients who disrespect them, no to obligations that steal their peace. Because every no to something meaningless is a yes to something meaningful. They choose time with their children over another hour at the office. They choose sleep over endless hustle. They choose presence over performance. Because they've realized that being wealthy in time is the real luxury. You can always earn more money. But when your kid is 5, they're 5 once. When your parents are aging, those years slip away quietly, and no paycheck is worth missing those seasons. So they stop glorifying busyness. They stop equating exhaustion with success. They no longer compete to be the most overworked person in the room. They wear balance like a badge. They protect rest. They build boundaries. They don't brag about 16-hour days. They design lives where they don't need 16-hour days. It's not that they don't work hard. Oh, they do. But they work smart. They delegate. They automate. They simplify. They're not afraid to pay someone to clean their house, to manage their calendar, to handle tasks that drain their focus. Because to them, time is not a cost. It's an investment. And protecting it is not selfish, it's wise. They understand something the rest of the world often misses. How you spend your time reveals your true priorities. Not what you say matters, but what you give your minutes to. That's the real indicator of your values. So they pay attention. They track where their time goes. They reflect. They recalibrate. And most importantly, they act on what they see. They don't just wish for balance, they build it. And here's the beautiful part. When you start honoring your time, everything begins to shift. Your relationships improve, your health stabilizes, your mind becomes clear. You become more present in your work, more grounded in your decisions, more at peace with your path. Because now, you're not just chasing more, you're choosing better. They've also learned to align their money with their time, not the other way around. They don't buy things that cost them time to maintain. They don't pursue opportunities that steal time from their values. Every financial decision is filtered through a deeper question. Does this buy me more time or take it away? And if it robs them of time, they let it go. They don't spend their best years trading time for things they don't need, to impress people they don't even know. They choose instead to live a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. Because in the quiet corners of their lives, they know the true measure of wealth is not your income. It's how you spend your mornings, how you spend your weekends, how free you feel on a Tuesday afternoon, whether you can stop, breathe, and choose, whether you can say, today I have the time to be where I want to be, with who I love, doing what fills me up. And that, to them, is the goal. It's not the watch on your wrist. It's the time behind it. It's not the square footage. It's the memories being made inside. It's not the hustle. It's the freedom to stop hustling. They understand that success without time is a form of poverty, that making money while losing yourself is not a win, it's a warning. So they build their lives with a different foundation, one made of choices, one where time is not an afterthought, it's the goal. Because they know when the money is spent, the house is quiet, the applause has faded, it's your time that remains. How you used it, who you gave it to, and whether you spent it in alignment with the life you were truly meant to live. And in that truth, they've found a richness no dollar can ever buy. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make is moving from survival to stability. From depending on a single paycheck to building a life supported by multiple pillars. Quietly wealthy people understand this truth early on. Relying on one source of income is not just risky, it's limiting. They know the world can change overnight. A job can be lost, a contract can end, an industry can shift, and so they don't gamble their peace of mind on a single income stream. They build more. Not out of greed, but out of wisdom. Out of a deep understanding that true financial freedom isn't found in working harder, it's found in building smarter. So while others sleep on the idea, they're quietly planting seeds in different soil. A rental property here, a dividend-yielding stock there, a digital product that sells while they sleep. A side business that starts small but grows steadily. And over time, these streams become rivers, flowing in the background, nourishing a life of options and security. They're not always flashy streams. They're not built overnight, but they are consistent and they are intentional. Because quietly wealthy people don't wait for permission to diversify. They look at their talents, their time, their energy, and they ask, how can I turn this into value? How can I build something once that pays me again and again? They understand that money loves momentum, that one stream often gives birth to another. A freelance project leads to consulting, a blog becomes a book, a passion turns into a product, and before they know it, they're no longer depending on one paycheck. They're orchestrating a symphony of income. Some active, some passive, but all working together in harmony. They also understand that building multiple streams isn't about being busy. It's about being strategic. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing a few things well. It's about choosing what aligns with your gifts, your interests, your energy. It's about designing a life where your income doesn't rely on you being present every single hour of every single day. Because when your income is tied to your time, there's a ceiling. But when you build beyond that, when you create systems, investments, and opportunities that grow even while you rest, that's when freedom begins. They aren't scared of learning something new. They take courses, they read books, they ask questions, they get uncomfortable because they know what's on the other side. Independence, stability, space to breathe. And perhaps most importantly, they don't wait for a crisis to diversify. They prepare before the storm because they've either lived through financial insecurity or watched someone they love struggle, and they made a promise to themselves, never again. Never again will their entire future rest on one job title, one employer, one stream. They don't build out of fear. They build out of clarity. Clarity that one stream is never enough in a world this unpredictable. Clarity that more streams mean more resilience, more possibilities, more peace. And here's the thing. They do this quietly. They don't announce every venture. They don't post every win. They're too busy planting, too focused on nurturing. And by the time the world sees the fruit, the roots have already run deep. This is not about hustling every hour. It's not about burning out. It's about leveraging skills, knowledge, resources, relationships, turning everyday activities into opportunities, turning ideas into income. Maybe it starts with a weekend photography gig. Maybe it's writing an ebook on a topic they know well. Maybe it's buying stock every month. Maybe it's renting out a room. Small steps, quiet streams. But over time, those quiet streams bring loud freedom. And when something happens to one stream, because life does happen, they don't panic. They pivot. They adjust. Because they've built not just income, they've built confidence. And that confidence comes from knowing deep down, I've got more than one way to provide. I'm not trapped. I'm not stuck. That's the power of multiple streams, not just the money, but the mindset it creates, the peace it brings, the strength it builds. And the beauty is, it's never too late to begin. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need a huge following. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. One step, one skill, one stream at a time. Quietly wealthy people know money doesn't just come from effort. It comes from intention, from planting seeds in different gardens, from letting those seeds grow, even while you sleep, even while you rest, even while you live your life, because that's the kind of wealth that gives back what money alone never can. Freedom. There is a kind of giving that doesn't echo through social media. It doesn't come with spotlights or headlines. It's not followed by applause or approval. It's the kind of giving that happens in whispers, in private, in silence. And yet, it's the loudest expression of humanity. Quietly wealthy people understand that. They know true generosity doesn't ask to be seen. It simply asks to be done. They don't give to be recognized. They give because it's right. because they remember where they came from, because they know what it feels like to be held up by someone else's kindness, because they understand that abundance is a gift, and gifts are meant to be shared. Their giving is never a performance. It's a quiet decision made from the heart, not for a camera, not for a caption, just because someone needed help and they could give it. Maybe it's a scholarship given anonymously. Maybe it's groceries left at a neighbor's door. Maybe it's paying for a stranger's medical bill. No post, no credit, just a silent yes in a world full of noise. They don't need the world to clap for them because they're not giving for validation. They're giving because they built their lives on values, and one of those values is this: if I've been blessed, I will bless others. Quietly, gently, truly. This kind of giving is intentional. It's not always grand, but it's always meaningful. It's rooted in care. It sees people. It doesn't look down. It reaches across. It doesn't pity, it honors. And because they don't give for show, they give from a deeper place, from a space of purpose, of connection, of knowing that wealth, when shared with humility, can heal so much more than poverty. It can heal shame, loneliness, fear. Quietly wealthy people don't just write checks. They write hope into people's stories. They open doors, create opportunities, offer second chances, not because they want to be remembered, but because they remember. They remember the teacher who saw potential, the mentor who made time, the stranger who said, "You matter." And so they give back, not to repay, but to continue the chain of grace. They don't believe that generosity has to be loud to be powerful. In fact, they believe the opposite. Some of the most sacred acts of giving happen with no one watching. A comforting word, a job referral, a connection made behind the scenes, a quiet donation that keeps a roof over someone's head. They know that giving isn't always financial. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can offer is your time, your attention, your presence. And they give that too. They make space. They listen. They show up. And when they do give money, they do it with clarity. They give to causes they believe in, to people they trust, to efforts that align with their values. Not because someone asked loudly, but because something inside whispered, "This is yours to do." They don't broadcast their impact, but make no mistake, it's there. You'll see it in the students who graduated, in the single mother who got a fresh start, in the small business that survived, in the quiet miracles that never made headlines. They've learned that generosity is not about what you give, it's about how you give. And why? It's about keeping the focus on the need, not the giver. It's about lifting someone without lifting yourself up in the process. Because giving with noise can feed the ego, but giving in silence, that feeds the soul. There's a dignity in that, a reverence, a kind of power that doesn't need a stage. And that's the kind of power quietly wealthy people choose. They don't confuse visibility with value. They don't need a plaque with their name on it. Their reward is knowing that someone's life is better, and they had a part in that. Quietly, humbly, completely. And the irony, when you give without noise, you feel the gift more. You carry it. You're changed by it. Because it's no longer about being seen, it's about truly seeing others. Quietly wealthy people live by a different code. They know that the deepest form of wealth is not what you accumulate, it's what you release, what you let flow, what you give away with open hands and a full